I'm Celia Sachs from Warner Brothers Television Publicity, and welcome to The Watchtower. It has been a long road of petitions, tweets, posts, and message board comments, but we are back, and so excited that you came out to join us for our first official panel for Young Justice Outsiders. Young Justice Outsiders is one of the many all-new exclusive original series coming soon to DC Universe. To learn more, please visit www.dcuniverse.com. After the panel, stop by the Warner Brothers booth, where you can pick up exclusive Warner Brothers themed TV Guide magazine Comic-Con issue, featuring 4 collector's covers. Inside, you'll find lots of stories, including one on Young Justice Outsiders. We love hearing from you on social media, so let us know what you think, and be sure to use the WBSDCC hashtag to follow along. This season promises the same rich level of storytelling full of twists and turns that you have come to expect and love from Young Justice. So to kick things off, we've prepared a little sizzle reel highlighting some key moments from the past, as well as give you guys here a first look at the new season. Who is ready? That's what I like to hear. All right, let's roll the video.
I'm not happy about this. He knows we're trying to leave the life behind.
Don't blame Nightwing. The decision was mine. Babe, you're freaking out over nothing. What could go wrong?
Welcome back.
Artemis! Aqualad has been on a deep cover mission for months, infiltrating Black Manta's troops, the Light, and the Reach. We faked Artemis's death. In fact, Artemis is Tigress.
What was I thinking? Wally and I really had something special together. Leaving the whole hero thing behind so we could just be normal. When Nightwing called, I couldn't say yes fast enough.
I so want to kiss you now. Or maybe kill you for putting us through all this.
Hold that thought. You can decide later when we're alone.
Warrior! The Reach will leave this world.
But won't that leave behind evidence of our tampering with this planet?
No. Not after we destroy Earth.
Black Beetle's MFDs. They're causing a deterioration of the planet's magnetic field.
I have a possible solution to our mutual problem.
A problem created by you and the Light. They collaborated to bring the Reach to Earth.
We're definitely coming back here, babe. You know, when we don't have a world to save.
There will always be a world to save. Now drop me and go. Omega Squad has...
I'm reading a 21st MFD in the Earth.
Even at our top speed, I'm not certain the 2 of us can generate enough kinetic energy.
Then how about the 3 of us?
The Kid Flash is in danger.
Just tell them. Okay?
Kid!
Where's Wally?
He wanted me to tell you.
No.
He loved you.
I need a break, Calder. You, me, Wally, we founded this team. Without him...
I understand. Business as usual.
All right. Hey, Bruce Lee, I'm up. I'm up. All right, I'm coming.
This is Kat Grant reporting live from the Markovian Royal Palace.
Meta-human trafficking is an international scourge.
Children and teens are being abducted.
The way our daughter was abducted.
There's a meta-human trafficking syndicate in Markovia that we can shut down with your help.
Itzy, bien!
When it's all over, we go our separate ways. No muss, no fuss.
Prince Brion, you tested positive for the metagene. Princess Tara would likely have tested positive as well.
Which explains why she was taken. Something daring must be done if I am to save Markovia. Metagene activated. Let's see what we've got.
Moderator for today. He is a correspondent for EntertainmentWeekly.com. Please welcome Chancellor Agard.
Hey guys, how are you doing today? Welcome to the Young Justice Outsiders panel. I'm so excited for this. I think we should just get started because we have a lot to go through. So I'll start bringing people up. First up, we have Art Director Phil Barassa. Next, we have producer Greg Weisman. Next, producer Brandon Vietti. And voice director Jamie Thomason. And next we have Prince of Markovia, Troy Baker. And last but certainly not least, Artemis herself, Stephanie Lemelin.
Everybody see how cool Brandon Vietti walked out? He just like strutted out. It sounded very smooth.
Couldn't see through my tears.
Oh.
That was the first time we saw that too.
Really?
Yeah, I barely saw it in the green room.
Sorry, we're having a panel up here, buddy.
Hi.
We'll be right with you guys.
I'm emotional.
So how are you guys doing? How's it feel to be back at Comic-Con after a few years?
Feels pretty good.
Pretty good. It's amazing, unexpected, and we are so grateful because it is all of you that helped bring us back. We wouldn't be here without you.
Yeah.
We love you guys. You guys are the best.
No, I especially love you. More than any of them.
Well, I wanted to start there. I mean, the show was on Cartoon Network, and then for 2 seasons, and then it went off. I mean, Greg and Brandon, can you sort of talk about bringing the show back in that process, I guess?
Well, our boss Sam Register's here, and he told us that we created the perfect binge-watching cartoon series. We just did it 5 years too soon. I love that line, so I steal it all the time. But he's here, so I have to acknowledge that he's right. And so, you know, the fans just, I mean, as they know, the fans really just watched the hell out of it on Netflix and bought the DVDs and just demonstrated to Warner Brothers and DC that there was still a great love for the show and a lot of people who wanted to see more. And that's why we're back, literally. I mean, just the fans demonstrated that they needed more, and that brought us back.
You guys did it.
Yeah, so thank you.
I'm curious. I mean, did your plan for season 3 change that much in between, like during that period between season 2 and 3?
Not a lot. I mean, we hadn't fully fleshed it out. We had some ideas. In fact, there were a lot of leftover ideas that we just couldn't get to in season 1 and 2. As we were planning all the stories, we would kind of put our ideas on little 3x5 cards in Greg's office, and they would just kind of stay on the wall, and we would try to get to them, and if we couldn't, well, they went into a drawer somewhere that Greg kept. And that was the first thing that happened, was we kind of opened up all of our old story ideas that didn't make it into the first couple seasons. But we also got together one night at a Mexican food restaurant, and we were sitting down just trying to remember the past, remember the second season, where we left off, what made the most sense to pick up in terms of stories, which characters we should pick up again, and what's the next most logical place for them to go. And once we started kind of opening up all the old ideas, talking about the new ideas, some of the stories just started to write themselves. I think our characters were pretty well fleshed out. Our voice actors kind of helped inform the creation of a lot of those characters, and we hear their voices in our heads actually as we're writing stuff for them. And so that was kind of the process of getting back in the room. Is like
I hear a lot of voices in my head.
But it was like getting back together with old friends.
Stephanie.
And so we got a bit of a tease in the Sizzle Reel of season 3, but can you give us a brief overview of what season 3 is about? And so the main conflict.
So the big thing, I guess, is metahuman trafficking. So the Reach came to Earth in season 2, and the Corlataeans and the Light were involved, and the forces of Apocalypse, and what they sort of revealed to the world is the existence of the metagene in a percentage of the population. And so now everybody is trying to capitalize on the metagene.
They love the metagene.
They love the metagene. So first world nations, third world nations, rogue nations, corporations, everybody is looking to weaponize the metagene, and criminal organizations, you name it, and and so metahuman trafficking has become a big thing in the Earth 16 DC universe for season 3.
Right.
They really That's our goal, is to make them go, yeah, hell is going on?
That's the spillover crowd, right? These are the A-list in here. That's the guys who couldn't get in here. They're watching us closed circuit, I guess.
And I'm pretty sure you aren't going to answer this, but I'm going to ask it anyway. In the Sizzle Reel, it was clear that a lot of time has passed, or some bit of time has passed in between seasons. Are you willing to say how long it's been between season 2 and 3?
No.
There weren't gray hairs. I mean, you saw that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Aqualad has a beard now, so sometime.
No, that wasn't Aqualad. That was Black Lightning.
That's Black Lightning.
Yeah. Black Lightning has a beard now.
That's true. Black Lightning does have a beard.
Yeah, that wasn't Aqualad.
It's been enough time for Black Lightning to grow a beard.
That's
okay.
Yeah. Guaranteed.
Aqualad's beard doesn't grow in folds, it's like patchy.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious, because the season's also subtitled Outsiders. What is the meaning behind Outsiders, I guess?
Stephanie?
It was the first series I've ever recorded outside, and
That's true.
you really have to learn how to hold for sound. All right, Troy, help me out. I don't know how much we're allowed to say. It's so scary to talk about something you're not supposed to talk about.
And the Insiders didn't have the same ring.
Well, we really wanted to kind of try some different characters. In our first season, we were focusing on sidekicks of the Justice League.
Call them sidekicks.
Sorry, nerd out. How dare you?
You studied.
I was a little speedy. It's okay.
Sidekicks that were coming of age and wanted to no longer be known as sidekicks, but get out on their own, get out from underneath the shadow of their mentors. But these were definitely characters that knew who they wanted to be when they grew up. They knew that they had powers, or in some cases when they didn't, they knew they wanted to be heroes. And we explored that further in the second season. We had our second generation of young heroes that were inspired by the younger generation before them.
Two of them are here. We got Cam and Eric, Tim Drake Robin and Blue Beetle. Stand up.
So for our third season, we wanted to bring in a different group of characters. We wanted to bring in characters that didn't necessarily know what they wanted to be when they grew up, didn't think about being heroes, didn't think about being villains, didn't think about having superpowers or meta powers. And we wanted to, after fleshing out a world full of characters with so many crazy powers and really fleshing out the DC universe in our second season, we were kind of thinking, wow, this is kind of a scary place that we've built when there are this many people running around with superpowers, some good, some bad, some being corrupted by different organizations and used as weapons of mass destruction. That's a very scary world, also with metahuman trafficking on top of it being a very real threat in the news headlines. So we wanted to focus on characters that are growing up in this world and see how they're affected by the world around them. They're not, as we kind of shorthanded it, they're not insiders into this world, they're outsiders of this world, and we wanted to see how they're affected by the world around them.
And you mentioned new characters, so Troy, you're playing Brian, Prince of Markovia.
Brion.
We don't really call him Brian.
Everybody does. But it's Brion.
Brion, sorry, Brion.
In the Markovian accent, it's Brion.
I'm curious, can you sort of give us a sort of a rundown of who he is and sort of what his deal is this season, I guess?
What is his deal? I'm a nerd and I'm a comic book, and you talk about the fans that brought this show back. I'm one of those fans. Like, this is very, very seldom does it happen where you get to be a fan of something. You get to be a part of making something you're a fan of. I love this show, and the fact that I was excited that it was coming back, and the fact that I get to be a part of it is just like, it was supposed to be way higher pitched. It didn't. Give me take two. There we go. Dogs are going, dude. But I kind of pride myself in knowing a little bit about the DC universe, and I went, who? Like, I had to go and dig deep into who this is. Brianna Markov he's aristocracy. He's someone who comes from noble birth, and as Brandon was talking about, we've seen how these characters, like, who you want to be. Robin knew who he wanted to be. Aqualad knew who he wanted to be. There's two types of people in the world. There's ones that seek greatness and some that have greatness thrust upon them. And I think it's a really interesting premise or narrative story to experience what that looks like when it's thrust upon them. And Brion's one of those people that, even though he was born into greatness, there's a whole other level of greatness is thrust upon him when he finds out that he has this metagene. And for me, I believe there's always something that's metaphorical, allegorical, whatever you want to say about this, that we all have something inside of us that we have to reconcile with. There's something that we think could be our greatest hindrance, it could be our greatest handicap, ends up being our true superpower. It's our greatest strength that we have. But to be able to serialize and narrativize that process for a character is one of the things I love about this show, because they're fighting big, villains and monsters and tech and the light and everything, but for this, it also goes on the story of how these people are wrestling this inner struggle too, and there's not a lot of shows that really do that, so that's his deal.
I think that, and also the name of the show. Young Justice, I think you play a lot with youth and the struggle that you experienced growing up and breaking apart from your family and creating your own family and finding your identity and everything that you were just talking about as well. And I thought it was interesting you said he was born into greatness, but not always being, born into great power or great wealth doesn't always mean greatness. We see it all the time on the national stage. So I think it's, we're not like talking about real life, but we're really talking about that. So I think, you guys did that again in this season without revealing too much, but still playing with all of those themes, and all of the characters you know and love are obviously a little bit older and at different stages in their life, and we're still always growing no matter how old you are. If you want to be open and vulnerable to that growth, you're always being challenged to step up and be better. So you really definitely do that in this season. Yeah. I don't know what I'm allowed to say. There's so much I want to say. You guys are not going to be disappointed. That's what I'll say.
And Jamie, I'm curious, what went into casting Troy in this role?
That is an excellent story. Do you want it? Yes. We went by height. Actually, both of these actors to my left, your right, represent good categories of casting. Stephanie, several years ago for the first season, we did lots and lots of auditions, tons of submissions, and then a bunch of auditions, then callbacks from there, and whittled it down.
A lot of seasoned pros.
And she won the role. She won the role. Troy, similarly, but a little bit different, was cast. I begged. I was like, please. Brandon said, how about Troy Baker? I'm like, oh yeah, he's good, cool. Yeah, it was a little easier.
He did have to audition though, because we wanted to make sure he could do this specific accent, because it's really easy for that Eastern European accent to fall into sort of
Okay, for this I make the thing, all right for you.
In Markovia.
It's Latvania.
Oh man. So technically, yes, we called and said, hey, could you just put a little something? But literally, we were in a meeting. Who's this Brion guy? And they told me, I said, And I think it was you, right?
Yeah, it was Brandon.
Brandon said, do you know Troy Baker? And I said, yes.
Yeah, it was definitely Brandon.
Despite knowing Troy Baker, to my credit, I still said yes.
Vianney and I have worked together on the Lego stuff, and he and I can just, we're the guys that on breaks, we're out in the coffee room going, yo, of course, in issue 74, yes. We can go hardcore nerd together. And that's the greatest compliment ever, is to ever be thought of as a solution to a problem. It's all right, we got to cast this, and there's a number of people that could do this, but the fact that you knew that I was a fan, knew that I was a nerd, and were he can't screw it up too bad.
How bad could he be?
Yeah, and that was awesome. That's my story.
And Troy, I'm curious. I guess how hard is it to do the accent?
That sounds like such a setup, Chip. How hard is it?
It's so
it's not very hard at all. You just take what you think sounds like Russian and tweak it a little bit.
I will say this.
Don't clap.
Don't encourage him.
I wouldn't say something without revealing anything, but sometimes they ask you what accents can you do in advance so they know what they have to work with. And I said some I knew how to do, and then I got a script where I was playing a character that I won't mention that's not Artemis, and it was in another language. And I was like, I said I could do the accent. I didn't say I could speak the language. So that was an interesting challenge that you gave me this season, where I was asking, I have 3 kids, and I was asking different mommies in my Facebook mommy group, does anyone speak this language? Because I just need to say some lines to you and see if it sounds real. And I couldn't tell them what it was for, and it was the most strange request. But I met this woman who spoke this language, and we met at a park, and our kids played, and she helped me with my lines, and she still doesn't know. So it's for Young Justice, but you can't tell anyone what we talked about.
That sounds like a really bad Craigslist experience.
But I wanted it to be authentic.
Meet me in the park. I want you to teach me how to say the words.
And she did. I think there's something about moms and babies that made it a little less scary. But yeah, that's a story that will be fleshed out later.
And Stephanie, I think in the Sizzle Reel we also saw that Artemis has sort of has not moved on, but she's in a different sort of stage in her life in the wake of sort of Wally's death. I'm curious, I mean, can you tease for us where, I guess, what's going on with Artemis this season, I guess, and what she's dealing with?
I can, but first I would like Greg and Brandon to say some stuff, and then I'm going to riff off of that because I want to know what I'm allowed to say.
Nothing. Nothing. No, I mean, you know, some time has passed, not going to say exactly how much, but, and she's grieving. She's trying to move on with her life, but she's grieving. That's where we pick up. Where it goes, we're definitely not talking about, but we can, but that's where we pick up.
The camera did a really nice punch in on you just then when you were saying that. I watched that. I was like,
nice work.
Nice camera. Yeah, man, I got you. It was like, she's grieving, and it just like slow push in. I was like, yeah, dude, get it, boy. That was awesome.
Eyes were getting a little dewy, kind of.
I think the camera puts on 100 pounds.
Yes.
And Phil, I wanted to talk to you about sort of designing all these characters. I mean, this show has so many characters. I'm curious, I mean, like, how do you manage to do all the designs, I guess?
It's an involved process. First, I look at the new scripts, then I complain to Brandon and or Greg about how big the show is. I tell them something like, this is impossible. We'll never be able to do this, right? Last couple years have been gone something like that. No, it's, you know, Young Justice has always been a big show. It's always been a, it's always been a big show. It's always been a show that is about these characters and their lives, both in and out of costume. But it's also, you know, a DC Universe show, you know what I mean? Which of course makes it perfect for bringing us back in this new content.
But I didn't know that the entire universe would be in every episode.
Yeah, well, we established that pretty early on, and so it's really about embracing that. You know, there's, you know, as much as I can while I'm complaining, you know. But yeah, it's about like digging into the history and the lore of the characters, you know, looking at the comic book traditions, and then thinking about how they are used in our narrative and what different contexts they're going to be appearing in, and kind of, you know, we've established so much with this universe. There's like ground rules, you know. So at this point, it's pretty much second nature, like how I'm going to adapt this stuff. Pulling it off in the time frame is always a challenge, but I have an incredible crew of designers and artists that help me with that chore. And it really is I call it a chore, but it's a labor of love. These guys are incredibly focused and have this very, you know, this big tale that they're trying to tell, and it's full of, you know, detail and texture, but I gotta say they're also incredibly collaborative. I think everybody across the board can attest to that. Like, we don't always see eye to eye on everything, but they're always willing to hear a point of view that may add something that they didn't initially plan for. So it really is a labor of love. I mean, we are trying to get into every nook and cranny of the DC universe, and, you know, one episode at a time, we're chipping away at that list. So
got Bashford in there.
Very Bashford confirmed.
Did you guys like? I've been dying to know. Did you guys like the new designs you saw for the season 3 footage up there?
Well, I was going to ask you about the new designs. I mean, and I think you just touched on this, but I mean, when you look at the new scripts for a new season and you sort of think about how you're going to tweak the looks, I mean, is it very much story-based, or is it more, oh, I think this will look cool now, and then you guys find a reason to sort of justify it?
It's a little bit of both. I mean, these dudes make me justify every choice. So, you know, it's definitely like sometimes there is just that instinct of wanting to add a nuance or some sort of detail or accent. But it really does have to cleave closely to the story, and it really does have to have a story justification. Some stuff with design is just instinct, but we have to make sure that it works on a mechanical and narrative level as well. So, but I honestly think, actually, you know, talking about, the genesis of the show, our boss, Sam Register, here in the audience, he always gave us the rule that like we can take liberties, but the design has to pass the squint test. So I think if you look at the characters in Young Justice, they have a distinct look that is very Young Justice, but they're recognizable to their comic book counterparts. Like you'll be like, oh, okay, I see how that's Black Manta, or I see how that's Black Spider. It's given its context by the texture of the world that we're trying to create. And that was really important to both Brandon and Greg and myself when we started out on the series. And we've carried that through all the way through this season.
I'm curious, in the first 2 seasons, was there a character that you guys really went back and forth on that you were able to reveal?
Went back and forth on in terms of just creatively trying to figure the character out?
Yeah, just like getting it right, or that you guys would have had a sort of disagreement on how exactly to do it, I guess.
We ponytail. Oh, come on. Let's not talk about Deathstroke's ponytail. I already said you were right. I give you that one. Even a broken clock, right?
Deathstroke had a ponytail in season 2. He will not have a season 3 ponytail.
Ponytail's gone. Wow. Okay.
That was a big reveal, you guys. I can't believe it.
Well, the biggest one yet.
I would say, though, in the new designs, look, I just saw it too. I do feel, though, that there's like a little bit darker, more mature energy.
Yeah.
I'll say
About
that.
the show in general.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which the platform lends itself to.
Yeah.
It's a different. What? Hi.
Said. Well,
You know.
There's no BS.
You Yeah.
I was about to ask you guys about
Scripts
that,
are
actually.
a little darker.
About
Ask
sort of,
away.
About sort of the show sort of aging out. I mean, in moving to DC Universe, how has the show changed, I guess?
Can we talk about nudity? Is that? Can we? No, don't reveal that.
I'll just say it's, I think the more.
It's more mature.
Use more mature.
I would every episode that I read, there's always a moment where I'm like,
Whoa.
we're doing this.
Yeah.
Holy crap.
There were several scripts, I would close the door in my room just to read it, to get it in my head, and I was always audibly responding. And there was one where I was crying so hard, my husband was like, is everything okay? And I was like, I just held up the script and he was like, okay, So there's,
Close the door.
Yeah. But I'm laughing, it's scandalous in some ways. There's just a lot. It's good. It's juicy.
It's actually great. It really is. I mean, it's so much more
Intense.
rich and fulfilled, I guess.
Well,
in ways that you couldn't before.
The DC Universe streaming service allows us to push a little bit further than Cartoon Network could allow us. And we've tried to work that into the stories and age up the stories a little bit without doing anything overly gratuitous or something that feels outside the show or outside the characters.
It's not gratuitous at all. It's quite to the contrary. It's not gratuitous in the least. It's
Phil used the word
specifically
grounded, and I think that it's not only in the character design, but that's also in the story elements as well.
Absolutely.
This is real.
That's where it started.
The fact that they're not huge, gigantic, character models, but they're actually I believe that that's a dude in a suit. The powers are enough, the abilities are enough, everything else that they're dealing with to me is incredibly grounded, and that's what makes it relatable, and that's what drew me to watch it. I'm like, I believe everything that I'm seeing right now, even though it's in this incredibly surreal kind of framework, it's grounded.
I give a lot of credit to Brandon and Greg because they are
give
the
none.
most rich storytellers. No, but their stories are so character driven, and they, I feel like they suffer for their art, so their art doesn't suffer.
I suffer for their art.
We all suffer
I think we just established that, okay?
Hey, can we just randomly scream to freak them out, just super loud, just like... That girl over there, I think, just went into labor. I know that scream. I got an 11-year-old boy. He just went into labor. Wow. Give her a job, my gosh. Jamie Lee Curtis just went, damn.
And I remember backstage we were just talking about a couple of new characters that you guys have this season that have yet to be revealed, or I guess, can you guys I guess, talk about them now, the two that you're interested in.
I mean, there were some people in that poster.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. You got to see some characters in the poster.
And Aqualad has a beard now, right?
No beards on Aqualad.
Black Lightning.
No
so hard.
Brian is going to be very big. What a great superhero. And I'm Brian.
But,
my sidekick, Phil.
There's one character I'm really excited about that I loved Phil's design for. You've seen him on the poster. There's been a lot of speculation about who it is. Some of you have guessed right. That character is Forager.
Yeah.
And, Forager, this will also be another big reveal here.
Fred Bug with 2 G's.
Jason Spizak, who voiced Wally West, voiced Kid Flash, is going to be voicing Forager for us. It's nice to be able to get the whole family back together again, not just with our characters, but with our actors as well. So I can't wait for you guys to see and hear how we've brought Forager to life. He looks very different from the Forager that you know from the comics. We wanted a different sort of look to the character. He's of a bug race in the comics, and we wanted a visual that sort of respected that idea a little bit more and kind of changed the look of our lineup. But and there was quite a bit. I don't know, Phil, if you want to talk a little bit about that design too, because that was quite a process.
Yeah. Well, I mean, just first off, I think myself and my design team and also a lot of our board artists and directors have conveyed to me, he's one of the most fun characters to draw. He has a really fun silhouette and fun shapes, and we really are playing him for, all that sort of, he brings a certain levity, much like Wally did in seasons 1 and 2, so it's appropriate that he's being voiced by Jason. But yeah, the design itself, there was a lot of back and forth with that one. A lot of times, because we have such a huge ensemble cast, we have to be sharpshooters, and we're like one and done. We try to nail it and hit our marks with designs and not, dally too long with, going back and forth. But with that character, because he plays such an important role this season, there were quite a few passes. And, he started out a little more monstery, I think, in the earlier iterations. And we just gradually kind of massaged him into the silhouette and the shapes that we ended up with. And again, I think he's kind of adorable. So he's really fun to draw. And it also brings a lightheartedness to the cast. In our show, we deal with a lot of serious themes, a lot of dark stuff. So it's really nice when you have a character that has a buoyancy and has a tenderness and has that sort of inherent fun and charm just on the visuals alone, and the story that these guys have sort of introduced him into and created for him also sort of has that nuance and has that feel. So man, he is so much fun to work on.
And he's a true outsider. He's a different species. He's from a different planet. So he comes to Earth and he sees Earth from a different perspective and what's going on
Just
there.
like
So
Jason.
we have a lot of fun with that. The other new character that you may have seen on the poster, I saw a lot of different guesses. Some people thought it was Black Lightning's daughter. Some people thought it was Solstice, but it's Halo. One of the original Outsiders from the Outsiders comic. And the voice actress for Halo is here.
Is she here?
Sarah Fazal.
She is awesome. Awesome. Wait till you see what she does over there.
I've only known Zara since she was 16 and sort of wrote the role with her in mind, and then brought these guys to the show she was doing at the Falcon Theater so that they could confirm that I wasn't crazy for wanting to cast.
Remember, I had to convince Greg to use her. I had to beg him.
And Sarah's amazing on the show. She plays Halo, but she also plays about a dozen other characters in season 3.
She's freaking amazing. Wait till you guys see her. Wait till you see her.
I'm telling you, this time next year, you guys will be lining up to talk to Zara.
For her autograph, yeah. Me too.
And finally, before I open it up to audience questions, I have one last question. The the first two seasons told mainly sort of original stories, but I'm curious, for those seasons, but also mostly for this new season, did you guys look to any sort of comic book stories for inspiration?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think you'll see, even as we open, we're paying our respects to the Outsiders comic book, Batman and the Outsiders. So we're kind of doing our Earth 16 spin on that famous story. And then along the way, I think there's other little tidbits of stories here and there. Are there any specifics that were your favorites to pull in from comics? There's definitely a lot of original stories, but we always try to pluck little pieces from the books.
Yeah, I just don't want to tell you guys anything. I never want to tell you guys.
I tried.
Ever.
Sorry.
Well, I mean, you guys also have the Fourth World stuff with Forager. You guys have done it in the first seasons too. I mean, curious, what are the challenges in sort of tackling Kirby's sort of majestic sort of Fourth World stories?
Well, I mean, from an art standpoint, he's laid down so much groundwork for us that we have like this wealth of inspiration that we can draw from. And Kirby's work is many things. I mean, he's, practically the author of a art form in terms of the way that he approached comics, but there's just an epic scale to his stuff. So it fits in nicely with the Young Justice universe, because we're always going for epic on some level. And there's a mass and a weight to his stuff, and like an incredibly unique language to the way he does technology and these ancient monolithic gods and stuff like that. So we tapped into like some interesting stuff, to bring that stuff to life this season. With the apocalyptic tech, we looked at a lot of brutalist architecture because it has this austere, sheer like mass to it. And we try to bring that in through both with the environmental design, the colors, and also into the character design, weaving in similar themes and stuff like that.
Yeah, it plays a great contrast to all the work that we're doing to try to make everything else feel grounded. Anytime we pull in something that came from Kirby's imagination, I mean, nobody visualized the DC universe quite like Jack Kirby. And so it's so fun to kind of explore his stuff, find a way to put it into the show as a contrast or a counterweight to the reality that we're trying to depict on screen.
I'm just totally nerding out right now.
Yeah.
It's like,
and with that, I'll open it up to audience questions. I believe we have the mic right here, so if you want to form a line.
Hi, my name is Aiden. So my question is, so I know that there's a bunch of different Robins and they all grow up to different Robins, Red Robin, Red Hood, Nightwing. What is, like the Robin in Young Justice, who is he going to grow up to be?
Which one?
The current Robin is Tim Drake, and he's Robin. Obviously, the first Robin, played by Jesse McCartney, is now Nightwing. So, and he's Nightwing.
No matter how cute you are, Greg won't break.
And there was a Robin in between those two. There was a Robin in between those two that we saw in the grotto, who was holographically dead. And,
go on.
And his name is Jason Todd.
Also Robin.
And he was
Robin.
He was Robin. And that's all I'm gonna say.
Sorry, kid.
Great question. So much more.
We're gonna be able to say so much more.
Yeah, just to make it clear, in case it isn't clear, I'm not gonna spoil stuff for season 3. I mean, you want to talk about process, you've got questions about season 1 and 2, that's great. But if you think you're somehow gonna fool me into revealing things, it's not gonna happen.
That's why I always defer to him.
Hi, my name is Ariel. So you kind of touched on how Wally's absence affects Artemis. Could you possibly touch on how it affects the rest of the original team? Does it make them more hesitant on their like actions?
No one else cares. No one misses it.
I'm sorry, but I miss him very much.
You are not alone.
You know, I mean, you saw in the clip, you saw at the end of season 2 that Dick left the team, and I think you'll find throughout for characters, for lots of characters ranging from Bart to Garfield to Dick, of course, and of course Artemis, and many others, that Wally's passing is a huge factor in their lives and how they operate and the meaning they take from what they do, and they miss him all the time. So it's a big thing.
It's a big thing. Yeah. Were you devastated? Did you, Frank?
Of course.
You emotionally react to?
Yeah.
You're not alone.
Artemis and Wally are two of my favorite characters. I just
not alone
loved
in
how
that.
their relationship developed, and it was amazing. And thank you guys for writing that. That was amazing. Thank you.
You should definitely watch this next season.
Hi, my name is Alexia, and my question's to Phil. What's your favorite character to design?
Man, that's so hard. We have so many.
Top three.
So many.
Artemis and Geoforce, of course. Yes.
Other than the obvious.
It's hard to pick a favorite. We try to put a lot of thought and just, you know, all of our creativity into every design we do. But you know, some are near and dear to the heart. I think the first character that I designed when we sat down to do development in 2009 was Dick Grayson as Robin. So that one I love. Aqualad, because we pretty much created that version of the character. And so I feel like there's a sense of authorship that the three of us have. And I have a fondness for the whole season 1 cast, really, because they're the original core. And as I said before, Forager is so much fun to draw that he's probably my favorite as far as like just, you know, doing something new and something a little outside the box for our core group of heroes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Diana, and well, first I wanted to say that my best friend loves all your work and we love Young Justice. And my question is, do the Teen Titans exist on the Young Justice world?
I guess it depends what you mean. Like, if you mean, is there a team running around calling themselves the Teen Titans, the answer is no. A lot of the characters, well, a lot of them you've seen already who've been Teen Titans over the years have appeared. And, you know, give us enough time, enough episodes, you'll see more, including maybe some this season, maybe. But we don't have a team running around calling themselves Teen Titans on Earth 16.
That was a key thing Greg just said. Give it enough time, give it enough episodes. We're going to be on a streaming service called the DC Universe. Keep us on loop. Please support us. Your support brought us back for a 3rd season. Please support us on the DC Universe streaming service, and maybe we can come back for season 4. Maybe we can get those episodes. Maybe
Exactly. If you want to see more seasons, it's up to you.
It's really true. I mean, there was not a lot fans could do to rescue the show toward the end of season 2. The decisions had to do with economics, but it's really clear what you need to do to get a season 4. You gotta just get that streaming service, watch those episodes over and over and over again, and watch season 1 and 2 will also be on there. Watch season 1 again, watch season 2 again on the streaming service, watch season 3. You keep watching those shows legally. with the streaming
That's a
service,
key
and
point.
we'll be back. It's really simple this time out. There's no confusing element to it. It's about, just watching the hell out of the shows, and we'll be back. If you don't watch the hell out of the shows, then we won't. It's that straightforward.
Thank you.
Right on.
Hi, I'm Carolina. One question. I'm from the outside the United States, so the service is primarily going to be first in the United States. Have you designed a strategy to reduce illegal piracy of the show?
Way above our pay grade.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think anyone on this panel knows the answers to those questions.
I'll take this, Greg.
Yeah, you do. Go ahead. I'd like to know. Big mouth.
For this I will answer in Markovian. Устроить своего крачно, снивнесне фардеч, мира круснитеч бротацке кинуть. Усприката фрашно весо.
Subtitles, please.
Добракач.
Well said. I can't wait to see the subtitles on that one.
Hi, I'm Franklin, and I just want to ask, is there any villains you've identified with on the show?
Any villains?
For me, it's Gordon Godfrey. I love writing G. Gordon. He's the most fun character to write.
Biggest villains I identify with probably Brandon and Greg.
Yes. Yes. Super.
Vandal. I love Vandal Savage. I love working with that character. Yeah.
I concur. Vandal's awesome.
I'm trying not to be a villain. I broke out of that world.
Well, like all good villains, they never think they're a villain.
No, you're the good guy.
I am.
Hi, my name's Joey. So one of the things you guys talked about is the scope of the show. One of the challenges you were talking about is just all the different characters, which is also, I think, one of the best things about the show is you get to see a wider range of the DC universe. So with that in mind, my question is, I know we're not going to get everybody into every episode, but are we going to be able to...
We're going to try.
Yeah, don't be so sure. Don't be so sure.
Don't count us out.
So are we going to see like characters who may not be like from episode to episode, but were previous established characters like Zatanna, Batgirl, the Justice League?
Greg. I'm not going to get specific, but nearly every character from season 1 and 2 came back at some point.
It's in one episode for that matter.
And these are huge shows, huge. It made Phil miserable. True.
Look at my
just Phil, not just Phil.
And so we've got new characters, we've got old characters from season 1, season 2, and we are not short on character quantity. Hopefully we're not short on character quality either, but...
If you know one thing about Brandon and Greg, their shows are simple, I guess. Simple and shallow, I guess, is what comes to mind.
That's what we go for, shallow. I'm always going for shallow. Don't always make
In all seriousness, though, knowing anything about them, you know that everything they do has a purpose, and even if it's a short little moment, maybe 8 episodes later, that's going to make a lot of sense. Everything is very clean and weighted and serious and well thought out. When I first found out we were coming back, one of the worst lunches I've ever had is when I found out we were canceled, and one of the best, we went out to lunch and they told me we were back, it was official. And we went up to see The Office, and you were talking about the 3x5 cards. And I always reference this only to people who have seen Homeland, but I'm sure there's other shows, but that moment when Carrie really loses it and you walk in and she's got all these cards all over the place. And I felt like I walked into that, I was like, oh my God. And every color index card I didn't even know existed, and then some that are probably made new just for you guys. Yeah, the entire walls were just covered, and this is just what's in their head.
Brandon's in another room rocking, going, it's all connected.
It's okay. It's gonna work out. But you can trust these guys. I can't imagine this show with anyone else at the helm. They, really think about everything, and they care so much. And so that is why this show works, and that is why, there is this cult-like following, and we're all part of it because we trust you guys. And all the characters you're wondering about, I have faith. Oh, I also know quite a bit. But I also have faith, and I trust them, and I think you can too.
That's, you talk about the cards on the wall. That's always my favorite meeting with these guys, is right at the very beginning of any season or any series for that matter. We have this initial meeting, we go into the room, and it's what she's talking about. It's a wall, you know, about like this, covered in cards. And
It's more than one wall, man.
well, the first time I went in for season
Wall,
one,
man.
and they were talking, you know, had all these cards, this is season one, and then there was, this is season 2, and this is season 3, and I'm like, guys, we haven't even started the first season yet. They're like, yeah, we know.
I actually have photos of the wall, so I'll be adding that to my Instagram stories later if you guys want to see it.
As long as you can zoom in and see what it says on the cards. Be careful, Phil.
Hello, glad you guys are back. I just thought it was a question. With all the different DC shows and movies out there, does anyone in the DC like say like since there's like the Teen Titans, there's the live action Teen Titans, there's the movies. Did they ever like tell you what you can't do because they'll interfere with another show you got or something? Because I know there's embargoes in the past where they couldn't use characters.
They tell them they can't do things that interfere with our show.
Yeah, it has not been an issue this season. And it wasn't an issue season 2 either. First season there were like 4 characters we were told we couldn't use, and then that, even though that embargo on those 4 characters got lifted, and since then has there been anyone that we?
I don't remember. No, not that I recall. And also, I mean, it's been really helpful that, you know, we worked with DC to come up with Earth 16 to specifically define our world, and it would help us make kind of differences, allow us to do different things with popular characters that were, you know, still respecting who the characters were, but were different from other timelines, from other shows, movies, what have you.
I think it also helps that now DC's got so much product out there. There's the Arrowverse and the live action movie universe and Brave and the Bold. You know, there's so many different things that there's less, because there's so much, there's actually less tension about.
I do feel, like when we created the show, there was like, we had to create its own continuity and call it Earth 16. I think there would be less of a mandate to do that now, because there is so many different iterations of all the characters in various forms of media. So
it's become a non-issue. It was more of an issue at the beginning of season 1, but now it's really become a non-issue. This season, no one said, "Oh no, you can't use that guy" or something like that. It just hasn't come up at all.
Thanks and best of luck.
Thank you.
So we have time for one more question, but before that, I just want to remind everyone that the show will be premiering on DC Universe, and DC Universe goes live, I believe, this fall. So and you can pre-order it now. So.
Hello, guys. Last year, I asked you how you made obscure villains cool, like Sportsmaster. Will we be seeing new obscure villains this season?
Obviously it depends on how you categorize obscure.
They won't be obscure when we're done with them.
We've got lots of new villains, lots of new heroes. Some are more prominent than others. They're all characters I'd heard of. Sportsmaster wasn't obscure to me. Professor Oho was a little obscure, but I think Phil has a remarkable ability to take a character, no matter how goofy the character's name is or the original costume was. He has this really, truly incredible ability to find that kernel of cool within the design. And then I really want to give, I hate to give him credit, but I want to give credit to Jamie Thomason here, who is our casting director and voice director, who finds the right people all the time to play these roles. And then, they'll read the lines and we get these great performers like the two here and some of the folks in the audience that we've talked about. And then Jamie will just ask for a twist on something and I'd be like going, hey, that was fine, let's move on. And Jamie's like, no, and we'll get something that's even better. And so between Phil and Jamie and our actors, it's kind of a joy to do these characters because even the most obscure character can break your heart or can infuriate you, or they just really make them real. And
Sometimes,
it makes what Brandon and I do job a hell of a lot easier because we've got these great people to rely on.
And what you two do makes our job, everyone up here, so much more fun. I've done a lot of, about 3,000 episodes of TV, 80-something movies. The stuff you guys do is in a category of its own. You guys are too smart and too good for. Yeah. I'm talking about Brandon primarily.
There's some stuff this season I can't wait for you guys to see. I mean, almost from moment one, but even there's some episodes that we've done. And by the way, we've got 7 episodes in the can.
Who wants to see them? Let's watch them.
Totally. We're way along the route to having all 26, going, and I cannot wait for you guys to see this stuff because I think we're gonna blow your mind.
Yeah, if you guys like the first 2 seasons, holy crap, fasten your seatbelt. You're gonna love it.
Thank you very much. Great. And thank you for keeping Kirby's legacy alive.
There's a signing at the Warner Brothers booth, so make your way to that, because we'll be signing posters.